I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and that is the hottest ever Volkswagen Golf R. This is the Golf R 20 years. It marks the 20th anniversary of the flagship nameplate for the Volkswagen Golf, and 50 of them are coming to Australia. There's probably a few more than Australia is entitled to based on population, but Aussies love R-badged Volkswagens, and so Volkswagen Australia have been able to go to the factory and secure a decent allocation, and all of them are probably going to sell out on the first day, which will be July 13th. That's when you're going to be watching this video because I have to restrain my comments until then. 32 of the cars will be lapis blue. They have black adornments on the outside, but the remainder will be white, like this car here. And as you can tell, the car is quite extroverted. It has a blue finish of the same wheel as the standard Golf R, blue mirror caps, blue detailing around the car as well, plus a beautiful party piece at the back end in the form of an Akrapovic titanium exhaust and an emotional start mode that blips the throttle when you start the car. It's also fully loaded from an equipment perspective. That kind of explains why it's 10.5 grand dearer than a standard Golf R. It's actually not too much of a cash grab because these things will be probably quite collectible in the history of the Golf R. But in today's video, we're going to take the Golf R 20 years on track here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and we'll also have a quick look around the interior and see what you get for your cash. But before we get started, hit subscribe below. Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by Budget Direct. So, the driving experience in the R20 years hatch starts with the emotional start, when you get a hint of the Akrapovic, which is loud in this car. Finally, a Golf with a properly loud exhaust from factory. This is a really expensive option in other Volkswagen Group cars that get the titanium exhaust, and to have it standard here is a lot of the reason why the 20 years is quite a bit more expensive than the standard car. You've got a lovely sounding exhaust note, and you've got more power and torque from the EA888 motor. 245 kilowatts of power, 420 newton meters of torque, and it deploys it to just devastating effect in environments like this. You've still got that lovely resolved Golf chassis that you can position it at will, though you definitely note that you are missing some of that lightness that you get in the Golf GTI. But you have options in the Golf R that you don't have in that car because you can drive it on throttle a lot harder out of corners. You just have a huge amount of extra power, up 65 kilowatts over something like a GTI in the R20 years, and that just makes a huge difference. This thing is at least 2 seconds quicker from 0 to 100 in the real world, and it just feels incredibly boosty. And when the thing comes on boost, you really want it to be pointing the way you want to go, because this is a fast car. You know, Golfs have always been pretty quick, pretty swift, but the Golf R standard and now the 20 years have just become seriously fast in Mark 8 form, and they're just capable of much more than they ever were in the past. You know, you can just drive it so hard out of corners, and then it just seriously comes on boost real hard, particularly in this tune. The DSG works incredibly well with this car. It would be lovely to see a manual, of course, but they are gone now for the Golf. Just so inherently chuckable. It's really the chassis which is what is so incredible about the Golf R, because we do have Volkswagen's newest adaptive damper. It can do it all, you know, everything from supple commuting through to laser sharp work on track. You know, it isn't quite hitting the same deranged highs as something like a AMG A45, and I would also argue that the Cupra Leon VZX is probably another level of fun on top of this. But of course, you've got all drive certainty in this car. You've got more options and higher plateaus that you can hit thanks to the 4Motion all-wheel drive and the torque vectoring rear. You've got drift mode, and you've of course got the exclusivity of the R20 years. And you know, we are seeing some of these high-end hot hatch specs starting to come out here in Australia now, and I think this is a fair price for the Golf. You know, it's a very, very expensive Volkswagen Golf. There's no way around it. Not quite as expensive a Golf as the Audi RS3 is, but you know, when you add up the Akrapovic, which is a seriously desirable component to have on this car, and it is fully spec'd in terms of the luxury stuff inside. Nice crack there from the exhaust. You know, and you just look at the drivability in the car, and you know, you can just drive it out of situations that you wouldn't be able to drive out of in a GTI, where you'd have to be a lot more patient, you know. So as a point and shoot thing, nice crack again. The Golf R20 is just such a compelling vehicle, and I'm sure the 50 people that snap them up here in Australia will be delighted with the car. Most of the R20 year's visual adornments are found outside. The interior of this car is really only marked out via the addition of genuine carbon inlays on the dash and the doors. And that is a nice touch for the very flagship Golf R, I think. Otherwise, what you're getting in here is basically just a fully loaded Golf R hatchback. So the same Napa leather seats that you get as standard on the Golf R, with heating, ventilation, nice sort of coffin shape up here with R stitched into the leather. You're getting this cool steering wheel. It's perforated, it's got a flat bottom and big paddle shifters, though I do wish they were metal. And you're getting the same tech stack as the regular Mark 8 Golf. So we've got a 10-inch touchscreen here, 10-inch digital driver's display. Very quickly after the Mark 8 launched, Volkswagen did give this car a processor bump, which took away much of the lag in the screen, although I know a lot of people do still have a bee in their bonnet about the digital climate controls, whereas on the old Mark 7.5 they were physical and located down here. But in most other ways, the Mark 8 is a nice progression on older Golfs, and of course sitting at the apex of the range, this 20 years does feel like a little luxury car inside. Just having things like those ventilated seats means the cabin is going to be kept cooler, particularly under this standard fit panoramic sunroof. Likewise, the Harman Kardon stereo is also fitted as standard to the 20 years. So when you combine the value of the option packages on the standard Golf R plus the cost of the Akrapovic exhaust, which usually costs about $6.5 grand, where it's optional on other Volkswagen Group cars here in Australia, you can see how they've gotten to that $10.5 grand price lift. Personally, I think this is a very expensive Golf, but of course it is a collectible car. It is a special edition celebrating an important anniversary, so that does make sense. And among other small cars, the Golf R still does come off as very classy inside, less boy racer, a little bit more grown up and elegant. So those are my impressions of the 2023 Volkswagen Golf R 20 years. Undoubtedly, this will be a collectible. And if you're a Volkswagen R person, you love your Golf Rs, and you've been sitting on the fence about buying a Mark 8, well, this car might just tip you over the edge, because it's pretty unlikely you're going to be able to get this collection of stuff at this kind of a price moving forward. Now, Volkswagen could always potentially add the Akrapovic exhaust as an option or an accessory to the Golf lineup in future, but certainly if you go for the white version of the R20 years, no other Golf R on the road is going to look like this. For myself, I'd probably go the Lapis Blue, a bit more of a Q car. A lot of people on the road aren't going to know that it's a very special Golf R, but that's just me. Styling is always subjective, and I'm very keen to know your opinion down below this video, so let me know in the comments. While you're there, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell if you've liked this video, and as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.